everyone. I'm Sireesha Koppula, Chief Medical Officer for Ambulatory Clinics, UNM Hospital. I would like to first start off by providing some context to the term bamboo ceiling. It was new to me before I agreed to co-host this session. This term was actually coined in 2005 by Jane Hun in her book, Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling, Career Strategies for Asians, where she addresses the barriers faced by many Asian Americans in the professional arena, such as the stereotypes, while also providing solutions to overcome these barriers. The bamboo ceiling, as defined by her, is a combination of individual, cultural, and organizational factors that impede the Asian Americans' career progress inside the organizations. So since the publication of Hun's book, a variety of sectors, including nonprofits, universities, and the government, have discussed the impact of the ceiling as it relates to people of the Asian descent and the challenges they face. There was also a senior writer at the Fortune magazine who refers to the bamboo ceiling as the processes and the barriers that exclude Asians and Asian Americans from the executive positions on the basis of more subjective factors like lack of leadership potential or lack of communication skills that cannot actually be explained by the job performance or qualifications. There are several articles regarding this subject written in many magazines like Cranes, Fortune, The Atlantic, and the Forbes. And this term, bamboo ceiling, is a derivative of the glass ceiling, which refers to more general metaphor used to describe those invisible barriers through which women and minorities can see in the managerial positions, but they cannot reach those positions. So in the same context, I would like to go through some of the data from the Forbes on the Asian Americans. Asian Americans are the fastest growing, highest income, best educated racial group in the US, according to the Pew Research Center. While they're well represented in the non-managerial workforce, they're often significantly underrepresented in the executive suite. There was also a recent study by the nonprofit FASN found among that among the 5 of the largest tech companies like Google, HP, Intel, LinkedIn, and Yahoo, Asian Americans represent 27% of the professionals, but only half that among the executives. So the bamboo ceiling is also evident in the underrepresentation of the Asian American women in the corporate America. There was also a study from the Catalyst that found that female employees of Asian descent represent only 4.4% of the manager and above levels among the S&P 500 companies. Other minorities are facing the similar challenges as well. So with this introduction, I would hand it over to Dr. Pandhi to talk about the model minority stereotype.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nancy Pandhi, Professor and Vice Chair of Research in the Department of Family Medicine, and also Co-Associate Director of our Clinical Translational Sciences Center. So I'm going to provide some additional context in terms of the model minority stereotype overall and a little bit about the Asian American population. So Asian Americans are 5.4% of the United States population at the time of the last census. And by 2050, the size of the Asian American population is projected to double to nearly 43 million. But one stereotype that's been very pervasive in our community has been the term model minority. And I don't know how many folks have heard about this before, but this is really a portrayal of Asian Americans as hardworking, educated, law-abiding, with high incomes and close ties. So while that may be true for many in the group, there's also sort of a problematic history that I think is important to acknowledge with this term. And that was that it was coined in the mid-1960s by the popular media as a way of denying the existence of institutional racism and structural barriers to success in the US. It deliberately pitted Asians against other ethnic minority groups, particularly what was being disseminated about racism in the Black Power movement at the time. And the other thing about the stereotype, it was really the Immigration Act of 1965, which had selective preference of immigrants who are highly skilled, that led to this particular notion and helped reinforce the stereotype. So there's been a lot of consequences of the stereotype, including resentment towards Asian Americans within the general public, pressure to live up to the stereotype, which has been shown clearly to cause some negative mental health outcomes within Asian American youth in particular. And most recently, or until most recently, a lack of awareness of bigotry and acts of violence towards Asian Americans with significant consequences. So the stereotype really created a narrative that because of their success, Asian Americans don't need resources or specific attention as an ethnic minority group. But in actuality, when we break down the data about Asian Americans, there's significant variation. So just to give one example, 70% of Asian Indians as compared to 26% of Vietnamese adults have at least a bachelor's degree of education. Similar differences exist in income and occupational attainment, which are very relevant to today's talk. So with this additional context, I'd like to turn things back over to Dr. Koppula to introduce our distinguished speakers.
Thank you, Nancy. Now I would like to introduce our speakers, Dr. Kadambi and Dr. Park. Thank you for accepting our invitation and making time to come and speak to our audience at UNM. Dr. Kadambi, I had the pleasure of working with him. We were colleagues at the University of Arizona, Banner Health, and he actually recruited me into nephrology division. He is a senior associate dean of clinical affairs and the president and the CEO of University of Florida, Jacksonville Physicians. He's a transplant nephrologist by training, and Dr. Kadambi earned his Bachelor's of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery from Bangalore Medical College, India, and he completed his residency and internship in internal medicine at Yale New Haven Hospital, where he also completed a fellowship in nephrology. He trained for fellowship in transplant nephrology at University of Chicago. He also earned his Master's of Business Administration from Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University in Chicago, with majors in leadership in organizations and marketing. So prior to his current appointment, Dr. Kadambi was the professor of medicine and the director of the solid organ transplantation, and also the chief of the clinical affairs at Banner University Medical Group. He also had faculty and leadership positions in the University of Texas Medical Branch, Galveston, as well as the Department of Medicine at the University of Chicago, where he was also the director for nephrology physician-directed practice. He has won many teaching awards at the University of Chicago and UTMB, and he has authored and co-authored numerous journal articles and book chapters, and is a reviewer of several scientific journals. And with that, Dr. Park is the Vice President and Founding Dean of the proposed Rocky Vista University, Montana College of Osteopathic Medicine. He joined Rocky Vista University in 2015 as the Vice Dean and led the development of the Southern Utah Additional Location Campus, where he served as the campus dean until recently to see through the graduation ceremony of his inaugural class. Dr. Park is involved in various leadership roles at the national level. He served as the Vice President of the American College of Osteopathic Family Physicians, which is the largest specialty organization of osteopathic profession. He also serves as an evaluator for the Commission of the Osteopathic College Accreditation and is a member of the Bureau of Osteopathic Education for the American Osteopathic Association. Dr. Park is a graduate of the American Osteopathic Association Health Policy Fellowship Program and continues to be active in advocacy for the medical education and primary care. He has a passion for developing future leaders and has created academic medicine and leadership track at his medical school, which has won him the Society of Osteopathic Medical Educators Innovation in Medical Education Award in 2020. With that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Pandhi.
Yeah, so now I'm going to ask a question of both of you, and maybe we'll start with Dr. Kadambi and then go to Dr. Park. But I'm hoping that you could each share with us a bit of your story and your journey to become the leaders you are today. We heard your very impressive kind of background and credentials, but behind that is a story of both sort of strengths that you bring and also some challenges you faced on the way.
Great. Again, first of all, thank you so much, both Dr. Koppula and Dr. Pandhi, for giving us and also Meg for giving us an opportunity to be here. It's both an honor and a privilege to do this. My first role, like everybody else, started out as a faculty member at the University of Chicago back in 2002. But one thing that interested me in medicine was also the business aspect of healthcare. It was really not, very common at the time for physicians to know about some of these things. So I always wanted to get an MBA, but the timing was never right. Obviously, you're rank and file faculty, you're so busy doing clinical work. At the same time, I got some advice from my mentor, and I said, hey, I'm interested in this thing. What do you think? And obviously, I was discouraged from doing it. I also talked to my brother, who's an interventional cardiologist, and even he said, what are you trying to do? You have to be a doctor, and not a businessman. Then I said, okay. As time passed, I reached out to one of the folks. His name is Brian Pereira. He was the CEO of a publicly traded company, and he's also a nephrologist. So previously, he was the CEO of New England Tufts Medical Center. So I connected with him and got some advice. And he said, listen, if you really want to do it, you need to really get into, the business school with your eyes wide open, because he had actually graduated from Kellogg himself. But he said that, this is something that you're never going to get any support from, from your institution or whoever. Then I said, okay, the timing is not right. Still was not right. I got married, had a kid, and, life happened. But in 2007, I got my green card. So that was definitely, one of the things that I was wanting. So once I had that, I said, I need to pursue my MBA, which I did. And, once I graduated, I was so comfortable at University of Chicago. One of the things I learned at the business school was, if you're comfortable in a particular role, that means say that you're not optimizing your own potential. I said, I gotta make sure that I optimize my potential. I did write a proposal to my division chief and my department chair saying that I wanted to be considered for an institutional leadership role. University of Chicago, great scientific minds, but it was really not progressive in many other ways. So, I did not get that opportunity. Although, thinking back, was it related to who I am? Perhaps not, but just knowing the culture at University of Chicago, I said, I need to look elsewhere. And I interviewed at a few places, and I joined University of Texas Medical Branch. Basically, the reason was there were just like too many problems out there in the kidney transplant world out there. I said, great place. Let's see if I can actually make a difference. I think the culture out there was very different compared to Chicago, but I got along well with people out there and had a really great time. When I got a call from my department chair, who used to be at University of Chicago, now he had become the senior vice president of health sciences at University of Arizona, and he called me to run the transplant programs as the director of transplantation. I told him, listen, I just have been here for a year and a half. I don't think my wife is going to like, if I try to move yet again to Tucson. He said, don't say no before you come and talk to, at least like visit this place. So I went and visited, and his name is Skip Garcia, just like a renowned pulmonologist and down to earth, a fantastic human being. So I said, the top person at the university is trying to recruit me. So I really want to go there. And I went there, put a good team together. That's where I recruited Dr. Koppula, to be part of the nephrology division. And our kidney transplant program just took off. We had performed 18 kidney transplants in 2013, and I went there in 2014. And by 2016, we had already done 125 kidneys. I mean, it's just basically like, reinvigorating our transplant program, lots of excitement from people. I think it was actually a great atmosphere. And that's where, when Banner Health took over our health system out there, had the opportunity to work as the number 2 in the medical group. So again, that was fraught with a little bit of disappointment in the sense that I was in the running with 3 other people for this job, and I personally felt that I was competent to do the job. But my boss, or my would-be boss, said that it was not because of competency that I was not going to give you the job, because he was an internist and he didn't want another person who had internal medicine training to be to kind of like take over this job. So he offered it to a surgeon. So although it was not considered, it was not because of discrimination. I actually felt that it was actually discriminating against my specialty, right? So, but anyway, so the other person didn't take the job, so I got it. And a few years later, Banner Health, they reorganized the role, and this role was eliminated, which gave me an opportunity to look outside Tucson at the time. And that's when I took this job. Again, for my job here, they had interviewed about 8 members. And I was actually selected from this group. I considered myself really lucky. So I kind of like, look at my journey as, first of all, every place I went, I understood the mission of the organization and also the vision as like, what it takes. And every step I've taken, I've always looked at, how can I not only succeed in my job, but also prepare myself for the next job that I might actually be interested in. And I kind of like looked at my own self around 4 basic elements. I learned this from my professor at business school. One is self-reflection. If I do not know myself, how can I improve upon it? So even now, I actually do it on a weekly basis. Balance, whether it's balance in life or balance in decision-making, and also harmony. So how can I actually make sure, again, we talk about work-life balance, but more or less, I talk about work-life harmony. I think about work at home. That was actually my wife, who called me. Now she's not happy I didn't pick up the phone. So I think about home at work, and I think about work at home. So how can I actually keep it harmonious? And also true self-confidence, especially when you're making a decision. When I'm making a decision, I need to make sure that I'm actually well-versed to make the decision, that I've taken a lot of things into consideration. And lastly, genuine humility, because I know what my roots are. I'm very thankful for where I am today. And, I always take the opportunity to thank the people that who have helped me, and also the people who are not here today, but who also helped me shape my career. The other thing is, I've never strived to be liked by people, but I rather really work hard to ensure that I earn their trust and respect for what I do. And I also maintain professional boundaries, especially with work friends, because it's actually very important to do that. And I've always treated people with fairness. I'm always available to have a difficult conversation. So this is sort of who I am. That has been my journey. And again, I've never kind of stopped learning. Even today, I'm a good learner, because I think that that's what I invest in every day. How do I learn something new that I do not know today, so that I can actually prepare myself for the future? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kadambi. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Park.
I'll start my journey into leadership from the very beginning. I was born in the capital of South Korea called Seoul, which now is a very large city with a population of 9.8 million people. So in 1975, I immigrated to the United States with both of my parents, and I came as a young child, and we moved basically into New York City, Queens to be exact. Now, New York City is also a large city, 8.4 million people, slightly less populous. And I grew up most of my life in New York, in Queens and Long Island. Now, when I got there, I was the only Asian kid in our neighborhood. And then another one, and then another one. But still, it was not as diverse as Queens is right now, which is probably the most diverse county in the world. So I got a lot of teasing. I was different looking. And so I got teased, and my name, Korean name, is Ji Yong, spelled Jiyong, but you don't know that the O is long, so it was very commonly pronounced as Jiyong every time there was an attendance roll call. And so Jiyong Ching Chong became a very, very popular nickname to call me. And that occurred in my earlier years, and of course, I hated that. But then as we became friends in my little in a neighborhood of Queens called Woodside, I realized it was a pretty diverse group of friends now I think about it. We had one Hispanic, one Black, 3 whites, and me. And one of the whites was Jewish, so pretty diverse. And we played sports together. So we played basketball together, and soccer and football and softball. And then that was our neighborhood. And then our neighborhood kind of grew, and our core group of friends remained the same, but our diversity and our diverse number of people grew as we grew up. So I didn't have many Asian friends growing up all throughout my elementary school years. But what I do remember is that I always wanted to be the captain of the team. When we're picking sides for softball or tag, I wanted to be the captain because I wanted to pick the best players. And I think that really led me on the journey toward leadership. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I wanted to be the patrol leader. Then I got to junior high school, and in this junior high school, it was a larger region, so many, many more Asian students were there. And I naturally ended up kind of growing my Asian friendships. I didn't seek it, it just naturally occurred. And then 8th grade, and then I realized my core group of friends were pretty much Asians. Went to high school and even more in Queens. And all throughout high school, I was always involved in sports. So whether it was volleyball or bowling or tennis, I wanted to be involved. And that was one of my most biggest accomplishments, I think, in where I am today, is being involved. Because when you're in a core group of friends, or if you're on a team, or if you're on student government together, those people that you work with, practice with, play with, you become friends with them. And so a lot of the racism doesn't really become a problem because these are your people. And then I went to college in Long Island State University in Stony Brook. And up until all that time, I dated Asian girls. And then I realized, when I go to college, there was a big Asian population at Stony Brook. So I was invited to join the Korean American Association, the Korean Christian Association, various other things. And then I realized, if I'm going to succeed in the United States, I better learn how to socialize and be accepted and really engage with the majority, the Caucasians. So I decided that I'm going to do something that no other Asian, at least that I knew of, was planning to do, was that I'm going to join the biggest, whitest fraternity on campus. 1, to see if racism truly existed. 2, to see if I can fit in. And 3, so that I can learn. And once again, they joined this group of people who, after the pledging cycle, you become brothers. And now all these people, majority white, you're forced to be brothers with one another. And so everybody was good to me. Few brothers that I had issues with, I don't think it was due to my race. I think it was just due to personality differences. So I didn't feel racism in college because of that. After about a year of being active in the fraternity, enjoying the pledges, basically doing my bidding for me, and it was fun, I decided that this drinking culture was not for me. So I was not part of that drinking group. And so I met my wife. She was a music major, pianist. I saw her on stage and I said, I have to meet this person. And so we've dated since. So I pretty much gave up the fraternity life, focused on pre-med, doing my studies, and spent every available time with my traditional Korean girlfriend, who came to the United States in her late teenage years. When I met her, her English was very, very poor. So I had to really practice my Korean to be able to communicate with her. And of course, she enjoyed learning English from me. Went to medical school, went to residency in Jamaica Hospital, which is a 400 plus level 1 trauma center right next to John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. And this was affiliated with Mount Sinai School of Medicine at the time. And I did family medicine residency. And then afterwards, I was asked to stay on as faculty. But I was not interested. I was more interested in being an entrepreneur. And, the dream back then was to own your own private practice. And so that was my dream. But I had a unique skill set and something that I enjoyed doing. That skill set was osteopathic manipulation. I was a DO in this large family medicine program. It was duly accredited at the time, which was only one of 3 in New York at the time. And I asked the program director, I want to do more OMT. Can I have a half day in the clinic to do OMT, osteopathic manipulative treatments? He says, okay. But on one condition, you have to help teach the other DO residents and other medical students. Sure. So I did that and got popular. The clinic, the numbers grew. So they didn't want that to go away. And so they wanted me to stay. But that was not my intent. So then the CFO came to me and asked me, we would love for you to stay as the part of the faculty, and we want you to be the director of complementary and alternative medicine for the Department of Family Medicine. I said, well, thank you. I'm very honored, but I have other dreams. And he asked me what my dreams were. And I said, I wanted to have a private practice. He goes, okay, what if we work with you and build a private practice for you? We'll pay for it. I said, oh, that's interesting. And so he goes, why don't you go think about it? And if you have any ideas, send it my way. So at that time, I got a book on how to write a business plan. And I wrote a business plan. And I submitted it. Follow-up meeting, the CFO says, okay, sounds like a deal. I said, excuse me? He goes, you want X amount as a guaranteed income and you want this, this, and that? I think it's doable. Let's do it. And puts his hand out and asked me to basically join the clinical group with my own private practice that I will find, that I will furnish, that I will hire, that I will do what I want. And I was really blown away because I did not think that he was going to accept my proposal, because I asked for a lot more money than I knew that my colleagues were getting when they were graduating from the residency program. And when I asked him why, he said, because you're the first doctor that I've hired out of 800 plus that actually wrote a business plan. The bottom line is I took initiatives. I did things that wasn't asked of me to do, but I wanted to do it well. And so I did that. And I worked there for 4 years and also the private practice on the side. So eventually, once my practice was built, I did 3 days full-time attending and 3 days full-time in my private practice. And I was doing quite well living in New York. But it was tiring. And all of my family from New York City ended up moving out to LA. And so they wanted me to come out west. I went and visited. LA wasn't for me. But then there was an opportunity that I went to at an osteopathic conference that I found out that there was going to be an osteopathic medical school that's being developed brand new in Las Vegas area, Henderson City to be exact. And while I was on a family vacation trip, I realized, oh, there's an osteopathic medical school here. I was kind of curious, so I went to visit. So that curiosity, so the initiative, and they asked me for my CV, so I had my laptop with me, and I said, well, if this is the price of admission, sure. I sent it over, and I was expected to be met by a staff person. I just wanted to see what it looked like, a curiosity, a tour. I was met by the dean, and gave me a tour of, this is going to be the anatomy lab, this is going to be the auditorium, and at the end, he shook my hand as I thanked him for his time and for giving me a great tour, wouldn't let go of my hand, and said, when can you start? Once again, I took the initiative. I was curious, so I went and I visited. Talked to my wife, didn't even occur to us, well, you enjoy teaching. You don't like the New York City winter, the taxes, closer to your family. And I don't like you coming home at 9, 10 o'clock at night because of the private practice. So we decided to make a life change, took a salary cut, but I saw opportunity and moved out west to Las Vegas. And I started in the startup of a new medical school. There was one class by the time I got there, got rid of the practice and sold my condo. And there I was faculty, worked hard, diligent, participated. And one of the key things I think that I did that was really wise of me was that I realized that if I am going to be a professor, an assistant professor at the time, that I was going to be lecturing to 135 students in the auditorium while I enjoyed teaching and I thought I was a good public speaker, I wanted to be better. So I took a public speaking course, a 3-day course where I was trained to do public speaking so that I can be a good lecturer. I think that was the moment that really changed my life and really catapulted me into leadership, because I think people are very aware that communication is the number one skill set that a leader is required to have. And so when the opportunity came, I was not seeking it, but the chair position was vacant. And as they were looking for another chair, the dean had asked me, would you be interested in being the acting chair? So yes, if I can help you, sure. After a year, apparently I did that well, decided, we don't need anyone else in the chair position. And over the course of years, while I was at Touro University, Nevada, College of Osteopathic Medicine for 10 years, and during that time, chair, and moved up to associate professor. And then they asked me to start a family medicine residency program because I had some experience in New York. Once again, dean asks me, sure, I'll do it. So I started a family medicine residency program. I was the founding program director, played that role for 9 years. Then they needed someone to work on other GME development. So I became the assistant dean of GME. So I just kept on saying yes, working hard, and most importantly, learning, taking the initiative, and communicating well, speaking well, speaking up at committee meetings, writing good emails with no errors. And then I got recruited to Rocky Vista University in 2015 to help develop a brand new medical school here in St. George, Southern Utah, where I am currently, but I am closing on my house next week to start my new job as the founding dean. But I started at Rocky Vista, asking me to start this up. So from vice dean, I did well. I took additional leadership responsibilities on myself. They didn't ask me to do it, but I realized that there was a need, so I did it. And what that needed was operations leadership. So I looked after IT, security, facilities and grounds, because there was no leader here. This is an additional location campus with the parent campus in Colorado. And then it was recognized. And when they asked, what do you want to do here? So I said, I think I would like to be the vice president of operations, and I'll continue doing my campus dean position. And so I've asked, because I went beyond my boundaries, because, and that's something that I do is taking the initiative. And that's something that I've trained and try to instill into the people that I work with here, is to don't let your title limit your leadership. And after 2 years, we launched our campus here with an inaugural class of 135 students. Last week, we graduated the inaugural class, and I'll be moving on to vice president and official founding dean of a independent medical school called the Montana College of Osteopathic Medicine in a state that doesn't have a medical school. So that's very exciting for me. And once again, this was because of what my leaders and my bosses have seen me able to do. And that is the journey to where I got to where I am now, and I'm very excited to start a brand new medical school.
Congratulations, Dr. Park, and thank you so much for sharing all the details. Now I would like to move on to the next question. We would start with you, Dr. Kadambi. Can you talk about the bamboo ceiling and more specifically, what you might have noticed in your own career in regards to this?
Yeah, again, as I was mentioning early on, just before the call, I had to look up what bamboo ceiling meant, because that was also sort of a new concept for me. Now, obviously, I'd heard of the glass ceiling, but it was just interesting as to, how things have been perceived about Asian Americans. And actually, I was literally ignorant about, some of those things. I mean, just like you, Dr. Koppula, I'm from India, right? So, and we have this caste system. It's a form of, different form of discrimination. Again, I'm used to it. I don't have to support it necessarily, but again, as human beings, it's actually sort of like, part of our DNA, for like, many hundreds of years. It exists, and perhaps it's actually, sometimes not even open, right? But it's always there. It's that 800-pound gorilla that sometimes people do not want to address. But I think a lot of things have happened that people, whether it's because this has to be addressed or people are forced to address it, it's actually good that we're having a dialogue. I came to the United States in 1996. Yes, English was sort of my first language, but some things that I recognized immediately after I started, especially with my pre-residency days, I had to change my accent a little bit. So that's actually immediately I came to understand. It's mainly to conform to how things are stated here. Like, for example, we used to say petrol, right? So here we call it gas, and some of the terminologies had to get used to it. But I kind of felt, as they say, be a Roman in Rome kind of thing. So I needed to make sure that I conformed to the region. Yes, the other thing was, as Dr. Park already mentioned, you got to work harder than the rest. It's not only here, but that's actually true elsewhere. Not only harder, but smarter. How do you actually work smarter than everybody? Hard work is one thing, but working smarter, that you have to figure that out as to what that means. Because ultimately results matter. People are yes, they actually give you credit for working hard, but if you don't produce the results, then that can be a hindrance. So I think those things matter as well. I held myself back, for several years, as I mentioned, because I had to get my green card. But once I actually got my green card, went through my MBA, and the most important thing I did to kind of augment my professional career was to leave the University of Chicago. Because that place, I was so comfortable there and I had no reason to leave the University of Chicago. But I can tell you, my wife and I, we pretty much fought every day after we left Chicago for nearly a year before, she got a little bit better. But leaving that actually helped my professional career so much. It's just unbelievable. Sometimes, you have to recognize that rather than somebody else or some other system being a limitation, you need to have, as I said, self-reflection. That actually may tell you that you might be limiting yourself. right? So I think that's also something that we want to make sure that we understand. I mean, there could be multiple reasons, but that one thing that I would definitely ask people to kind of like, examine to see if that's part of the bamboo ceiling as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kadambi. Dr. Park, would you like to add on?
Yes, I'll keep it short because I believe I spoke too long at the first question. The term bamboo ceiling, I don't like it. It's for a couple of reasons. It's kind of racist in itself. But as I looked into it, it was coined by a Korean author. And I read the book, and it's a really good book. So I'll live with the term. But I also don't like it because bamboo is very hard. It's hard to break, and it's quite visible. So when I was asked to give this talk, how I broke through the bamboo ceiling, I never thought about me breaking through anything. I think I refused to see it. Either I wasn't looking for it or it wasn't there. So I don't think I broke through. I think what I did was that I acculturated myself to the dominant culture of wherever I was, and I fit in. But when I fit in, I wasn't just lost in the sea. I wanted to stand out. I told you I wanted to be the captain. I enjoyed public speaking. So I was out there, as you would. And I said yes a lot. I joined a lot of committees. And then one committee led to another committee, led to a chair, led to national nominations. And this is how things had happened. So for the bamboo ceiling issue, I think it's a mindset. I didn't believe it was there. My mindset was, if that person could do it, I can do it. My advice would be that if you really believe that there is a bamboo ceiling where you are, then you may need to find another house where you can grow. Dr. Kadambi said it right. He needed to move. And one of my mentors, as I was struggling with the decision of leaving New York, because New York to me was the center of the universe, he said, David, you're an up-and-coming leader. You're an up-and-coming professional. You're going to be successful. But the key to this is you got to be mobile. You got to be willing to go where the opportunity is. And so opportunity led me to Las Vegas. It led me to Utah. I didn't even know where Utah was when I was living in New York City. And now I'm going to Montana. So I will go. If you're looking for gold, you go to California in the gold rush. You don't go to Ohio and start digging for gold.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask the next question that kind of shifts the frame from reflecting on kind of your individual journeys to more thinking about for others and what you've observed. So what are some of the barriers that you perceive that Asians generally may face based on personal appearance, cultural norms, or other characteristics? Understanding, of course, that this is a generalization. And let's reverse the order. So Dr. Park, did you want to go first?
Yes, I think the common stereotype that Asians have, and stereotypes has some truth to it, is that shy, reserved, disciplined, hardworking. So the good stereotypes, I would say you leverage them. Hardworking, intelligent. I leveraged the stereotype when I was young that was Asians knew Kung Fu. So I avoided a lot of fights because I pretended like I knew Kung Fu. I used that stereotype. But then the negative stereotypes are shy, quiet, doesn't speak up, doesn't complain, put their heads down and just do what they're told. Well, that has to change. And then if you're looking for leadership, you have to act and play and look like that role, whether it's dressing professionally, whether it's making yourself bigger, whether it's on Zoom or commanding the stage. It's communication. Communication. It's also not being afraid to voice your opinion, whether it's right or wrong. Voice is just an opinion. You voice it. And then while some may disagree, there's going to be some others who do agree with you. And those people who agree with you, if they come and tell you, I'm really glad you said that. That can help reward you. And further, communication is also about social engagement. Once again, it's acculturation. It's the culture of team building. You got to be part of the group, part of the gang, if you will. And so I accepted invitations after work. They're going out to a bar or going out to a restaurant. They want to go golf this weekend. I don't like golf. I wanted to go home at night, and I just wanted to, watch TV or play on my PlayStation, but I accepted and I went, and you develop that connection. And then I became one of them, one of the guys, if you will. Dr. Kadambi, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, looks are definitely important for people. Hey, listen, I'm short, I'm brown, I'm bald, okay? God created me that way. Okay, so I can't do anything about it. So what I've done is I've accepted it, and more importantly, I'm actually comfortable with that, right? So once I've actually, obviously, like, yes, I want to look like George Clooney or Brad Pitt or whatever, or Tom Cruise, right? So, but again, so those things are not important to me anymore. I'm comfortable with that. So once I got those things out of the way, my main focus is, how can I actually become more competent, learn a little bit more to get to the next level, whatever that might look like. And that's actually been a major goal for me. Again, like, my religious preferences were there before. I don't eat meat. I don't drink alcohol, right? So those things were not considered okay about like 25 years ago. But now it's a social choice for people, right? So you have to be, first of all, comfortable with your own things. And then, once you actually get over some of these things, it's hard maybe in your teens and your 20s about some of these things, but you have to make a conscious effort to sort of like get over things that you don't have control over necessarily. Then after that, you really have to focus on what you need to do to get yourself better, whether it's an investment in education or investment in public speaking, like Dr. Park said. So whatever you feel that you lack to get to that next level, that's actually very important. So again, everybody has their own insecurities, right? So they may not necessarily share those things with you. It's actually very important to know, just because somebody looks really good or whatnot, that doesn't mean to say that they have everything in life, right? So they have their own issues as well. And also, please know that there are probably thousands of other people who would die to be in our shoes, right? And they may not tell us, but those things are true. So appearance, culture, yes, those things do matter on the surface, but realistically, it's actually up to us to get over those things first. It's very, very important that surface is surface. Let's actually make a deep dive and see as to what really matters to us and how can we really make a difference. How can we really get to that next level?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Park and Dr. Kadambi. Thanks for sharing with us those unseen factors as well as your advice. One other question we have, is there a silver bullet to fixing the issues with the bamboo ceiling? Or is it just continued hard work that will make Asian Americans be successful? I would have Dr. Park take on first, if it's okay.
Sure. I don't know if what I'm going to share with you is going to generalize to other industries, but I've been in healthcare and medical education. And I've said this a lot. It's communication skills. It's social skills. So what I can offer is that I have invested in myself, as was mentioned, in speaking English better, in communicating this better. And I also invested in myself in learning how to be a leader. It's a skill set. And so I read a lot of leadership books, and then I try to implement them. And then I teach it, because I heard that great leaders don't amass a lot of followers. Great leaders develop other leaders. So that's what I try to do, is develop other leaders. I also believe that teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So leadership. So I'll give you two advices. We're coming to a close. Two things that really helped me. Besides the public speaking, it was a book that was very, very impactful in acculturating and in communications. It was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That changed my life. And I recommend it to anybody who is looking for leadership or to fit in or to stand out or to be liked. 2 is work on your communication skills. And when I say work, it's not just read a book or watch YouTube videos. Work like you're working in research or seeing patients. Put work into it. Work on your communication skills and then muster up the courage and speak out at meetings and engage and be present and be shown. Then that's how you get recognized. You have to be visible to be seen.
Thank you, Dr. Park. Dr. Kadambi, do you want to add?
Again, I echo all the things that Dr. Park said. One of the things is, first of all, you got to make sure that you want to be in a leadership role, because you need to go into a role with your eyes wide open, because there are actually a lot of headaches out there as well, right? So I think some people are just not equipped to deal with some of those things. And, you got to be really clear that those things exist. And, as we've been talking about investment in formal education and training. So those are some of the hard skills that you need, whether you need to kind of do a business plan and, or you need to read an Excel spreadsheet, a financial report. Those are hard skills that you need to have. But the soft skills Dr. Park mentioned, communication, I cannot underscore the importance of it. I've actually gone one step beyond. Communication to me right now, in my opinion, is not what I'm speaking, but what is understood by the other party. I'll give you an example. So I'm leading the compensation plan yet again. Dr. Koppula, you can remember from our Banner Health days as to how the rollout went. So when I say the word compensation, it actually means 10 things to 10 different people. So how do I ensure that what I'm saying is actually what is being understood? That's the extent that I'm actually going to right now with communication. And as Dr. Park mentioned, emails, sort of very, very structured and very simple. I keep it very simple. If I have to write more than 20 lines, about 10 lines is my max that I write in an email, because if not, you're just going to lose people. So if I have to, especially if I talk to somebody, and if it's more than 3 or 4 lines, I actually call them and said, let's actually discuss face to face, because emails are only good at one-way communication, but if there has to be a dialogue, it's better done in person. And the other thing that communication is, how do you relate to people, right? So whether it's at workplace, home, you'll always have conflicts, and you gotta actually be sure that you can resolve conflicts. It's not that you have to necessarily change the entire dynamic. It's getting people together to talk about things, right? So you may not have all the answers. People have the answers, but I think resolution of conflict is actually another key attribute that I've seen, especially good leaders do that really well. Do not hold yourself back. You have to be courageous. You got to take a certain bit of risk. Again, I'm not talking kind of like jumping off of a building, in a bungee jumping or something of that sort. But calculated risks are really important for you to go up the ladder. And as we've said, the opportunities that you're looking for may not exist within your institution. So being mobility is actually going to be crucial. There are going to be failures at some point, in the sense that you may not be able to get a certain job, but that's okay. All you need is that one successful job for you to have that as a stepping stone for future endeavors. Moving is not easy. I moved, this is my 5th move, and every time it's actually getting easier. I thought it was going to be the other way, but right now my daughter, she's in high school, and she said that she's going to disown me if I move again before her high school is completed. So obviously, I want to make sure that I respect that and I honor that. But to me, this is a journey. This is a journey like many other folks. And it's actually been wonderful, and I've been thankful for all the support that I've received during my journey. And that's actually what I tell people as well. You know, my journey might not be suitable to you. You actually have to find your own journey as to how you're going to, and that journey might involve moving to a different place, because that's actually a critical piece of advice that I give everybody.
Thank you. We did get one question, and that would lead to some reflection, and it is about, what if an Asian does not want to acculturate based on the dominant culture's limited perspective? So I think we heard in both of your journeys about, places where for you, acculturation was kind of the way that you approached it. Do you have thoughts about this view as well?
Yes, I'll jump in. First, acculturation is different from assimilation. Assimilation is adopting the values of the dominant culture. Acculturation is holding your own values, but adopting the behaviors. I was a psychology major, and it's about behaviors that really governs how people are viewed, and your role in leadership. So, if it was mentioned before, when in Rome, do what Romans do. So it's going to be very difficult when you're going to start trying to break that culture of an organization or that dominant thing. It will eventually change. Cultures are dynamic. They will change. Right now, where we are, that change is happening right now. I see it happening. So this is very exciting. Back when I graduated medical school, there wasn't a single Asian American dean. Now there's 5 in MD schools and 1 in a DO school. It's happening now. Leadership is happening. But you have to move and shift and be adaptable and flexible with culture. And that's one of the key things also, flexibility, dealing with crisis, adaptability as a leader. So if you want to be a leader, I think these are important steps that you all have to undertake. Absolutely.
Again, the thing is, leadership is not one faceted, right? It's multifaceted. And I think so there are actually 2 things. One is getting to a leadership role. And number 2, being successful in a leadership role. They're very 2 different things. So for you to get to a leadership role, it could be your qualifications. But sort of being successful in a leadership role, qualifications might have to do less, but it's actually how you deal with situations that actually becomes more important. I think the more you know about either other cultures or other people, the better it is. So you will actually be a much more balanced leader. Again, leadership, to me, it's not about whether people like me or not, but whether people respect me for the job I do. I cannot demand respect. Respect actually comes with, trust. So people have to trust you as a leader ultimately. And that actually comes, based on how you treat other folks, and also how you manage different situations. And this is also a learning journey, because this is not an end all be all. And you actually have to be open to criticism. You have to be open to feedback. You have to be willing to change for you to make sure that you are able to influence, especially if you have a vision and that you're trying to communicate. Those things don't happen overnight. So it's a process of influence. It's a slow change. And patience, perseverance, and persistence are some of the key kind of core values that I follow, especially in my own journey.
So I just want to say just really quickly, thank you so much, Dr. Park and Dr. Kadambi. I would be remiss if I did not share that we're currently doing an internal executive search for an executive diversity officer. So I'm encouraging my faculty and senior administrators to apply, right? To think about it and figure out if it aligns with your personal and professional interests. And then also we're doing soon an open search, right? Intern and external for a new Dean of School of Medicine. Our esteemed Dean McGrew will be retiring in the fall, and an announcement will be coming out, and it's really spreading the word, right? Like I'm sure Dr. Park and Dr. Kadambi can recommend several people and encourage several people to apply along with everyone on this call. So
yep, happy to.
Just wanted to share that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Park and Dr. Kadambi, for coming and speaking to us. This has been very helpful. I would like to ask Dr. Leggett if she would like to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koppula. This has just been just an incredibly insightful session. Really appreciate your moderating and keeping everything going so nicely. And then Dr. Kadambi and Dr. Park, I was just actually getting ready to put in the chat. So I appreciate the opportunity just to thank you for, your insights and perspectives and advice here and the narratives, right? I think that's so important to share these things, and just found it really insightful personally, and I'm hopeful everyone else did. And we're very, very proud that, from our Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and across the HSC and our communities, that we are able to bring these really insightful and important and vital sessions to everyone. So I appreciate people being here today. Again, I appreciate your leadership and this opportunity. I just, again, really enjoyed this and learned some things. I think every time, I don't care how long we've been in the business and doing all these different things we do, I love this because we just continue to learn from each other, and also continue to find new people that we can also network or reach out to. So again, thank you so very much. Very much appreciate this. And one more thank you to the Dr. Koppula and our Heritage Month Committee for continuing to bring these great sessions. Thank you everyone for joining as well.
Great, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Pandhi.
Bye.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pandhi, as well.